Hello, Foluyinka. Welcome to the podcast. I know I finally got you to come on here. How are
Hello,
you?
Said. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good to doing well today. And you?
I'm very excited because you are someone that I have known for, let's see, 20 years? No, I don't think so. I think it's closer to
Please don't go
25
revealing
years.
my age on the internet.
No, I'm
Thank
not
you.
going to do that. No, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to let the viewers know or the listeners know that yes, this is one story that I can say for sure I saw happen in real time. So you're not someone that I heard about their story and I go, oh, I need to have someone on, I need to have her. It's someone that I literally watched like, wow. So welcome.
Thank you.
Um, I want to start out with your background. It's very interesting. I want you to share your upbringing, the the educational pursuits, and yeah, I'll leave it to you.
Wow. Given my big age, as you hinted, um, but no, my background educationally has been a little bit interesting. I spent the bulk of my primary education in Nigeria, um, and did spend some time in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
Uh, Finished primary and started secondary school there.
Okay.
And then I went back to Nigeria, and we were living in Warri, Nigeria. We had left from Kaduna slash Abuja,
Right.
all of that.
Yes. I do.
And that was where I think it got really interesting, sort of the Warri portion, when I was homeschooled,
Yes.
for the last 4 years of secondary school slash high school. So that was definitely very interesting. I think, um, walking it back a little, both my parents are educationists.
Yes.
They were teachers for short periods of time. I
I
think my mom
was
was a teacher for a little longer than my dad.
I was one of your dad's students,
Yes,
so
you were.
I know for sure he's a
You-
he's a unconventional educationist. He likes to
yeah,
experiment. Yes.
for sure. And even when they were both not working directly in teaching or in education through regular teaching in school, they were always involved in mentoring,
Yes.
in professional development, just some form of continuing education. So I
Yep.
think, growing up, I knew that learning was key to living,
Yes.
and that literacy, specifically reading, was really at the core of learning. Being able to read, um, and read widely was very important, and that's something that we did together as a family. I
Okay.
did individually and do love reading, and it has
Okay.
been, something that really broadened my horizons, opened my mind, and taught me so many new things. Even when my actual physical world was still pretty small. So, yes, sorry, educational
Yeah.
background.
Yeah. Speaking of, you mentioned the reading.
Mm.
Give us the story about your library experience in the UK. There was this time, and there was this school, and there was you and your brother, and you guys just give me the story. I don't want to model it up. So you know what I'm talking about.
If it's the story I'm thinking about, and I think it's very interesting, I was just talking about public libraries, and I really
Yes.
believe public libraries are, the one of the most important institutions that a country, a city can have.
Right.
But one of the, really great benefits of moving to the UK, at the age we did, I was 8 when we moved, was access to public libraries, being
Right.
able to read. So we were always big readers. I'll give a little bit beforehand. So when we lived in Kaduna, I don't know if you remember that they used to sell secondhand books behind, I think it was like behind post office,
Not behind post office,
was
right
where
in
you
front of
could
post office. Of
buy.
course, that's where I bought all
You've
the.
heard of?
That's
Oh,
where I
well,
bought all
there
the
we go.
programming
So
textbooks that I have. It's still there. Well, it's
exactly.
not there anymore, but yes, I know.
No, it's not there anymore.
Okay.
I went to look. It's not
Okay,
there
you went to
anymore.
check. So okay.
Yes, yes. Even by the time I was doing youth service. Anyway, so my mom would buy, spend hard-earned money and buy books, and it was like a big treat for us. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes some people have chocolates and things, and those were nice treats too, but books were big treats for us. So,
Right.
reading is always something that has been valued.
Okay.
So we moved to Manchester, and I remember our first summer in Manchester, the public library was having like a little reading challenge situation, and
Yes.
they gave us this cute little tracker things, and it was like, if you read 10 books, you
Yes.
can, the challenge is to read 10 books over the course of the summer, and then
Right.
you would be able to pick a prize from the box of prizes. Well,
Okay.
they said that, and me and my brother, we took it personally. And so I mean, but we loved reading, and we were, this was a place you could go and get books for free.
Free.
For
For free.
free, you could take out like 12 books at once and go home and read them. And then so we were just, doing our usual thing, reading
Right.
everything. I read all the Babysitters Club books. I read a whole bunch of all the different books, R.L. Stein, all the Goosebumps. I remember all these random books, but I had so much fun. And my brother too. I remember those sheets had like 10 little, sticker things. I
Yes.
think we must have filled out like 4 sheets each.
Oh
And so
wow.
by the end of the summer, when they were like, "Oh, come and collect your prizes," and we rocked up or we put our sheets down on the table, they just looked at us and they bought the whole box
Oh my
of
god.
gifts. And we're
You
like,
serious?
just take as many as you want. Like at this point,
They gave
what
you
are
more
they
books?
going to do? So I was no, but they had all these little gifts, the
Gifts. Oh, so they
little
just gave you the whole
knickknacks for
box?
children. No, well, they took the whole box because
Box.
it was supposed to be, if you get 10 books, you can, you pick something or they give you
Oh, okay.
something. But they
Okay.
just kind of gave up and just dropped the whole box on the table and were like, take what you want, as many as you want. I mean, the whole challenge, you can have all the gifts. But
Wow.
we were very restrained and very measured. I think we only took two things each.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but that was probably the first time I realized that comparatively we read a lot
Oh,
in
right.
our house.
Okay. 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 So
But
you
yeah, reading.
so
So go ahead.
after your so this was the UK. So after the UK, I remember you came back to Nigeria, and then
Yes.
uh, I remember your dad saying, "I don't trust the educational system. I'm gonna I'm gonna just keep you at home." So how was that for you? I know your brother's experience, bullet fair, but yours was okay. Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened, but anyways, uh, we'll well, so let's just continue. So
Mhm.
you had your let me just take this off. You had your like I said, I spent time with Bolutifer, so I kind of saw some few minutes or some few days of what it was like for him. What was it like for you?
Um, yeah, so I think bearing in mind that, most of my family's experience prior to this had been in Kaduna, sort of in the north, or in Ibadan, Lagos, so Warri was a completely different kettle of fish for us.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and so, my dad, Baba's comment about not trusting the education system was more also sort of, not knowing what sort of the situation was, but then also being aware that realistically, the schools that could provide sort of a solid education
Oh,
and quality
okay.
learning were a little out of reach
Right.
economically.
So was it
So
okay? So it was a worry thing.
it
One,
was a little bit of worry
a
thing.
location thing, rather, not a worry thing, a
Yes,
location thing. So it could have
yes,
been any other
yes.
place, but he wasn't used to the.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. It was also a thing that I wasn't going to boarding school. I'm too much of an ajebota for that. I'm sorry. I heard the stories and I was like, no, thank you.
Okay, there was that
So
option of boarding school. That's true.
yeah, I mean, it was raised at some point, right, and
Right.
discussed something that would work. But so basically, how the homeschooling worked was it was different for me than for both, so primarily because I was a little older and I'd already
Right.
had 2 years of secondary school in England, where I was
Right.
at Watford Grammar School for girls, so
Okay.
already had a great foundation. And so looking at what I wanted the rest of my academic career to look like, it was sort of picking a curriculum,
Okay.
which started out as a mix of the Nigerian and British curriculum and ended up
Okay.
as a mix of the Nigerian and American curriculums.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and there so there was some external tutoring involved for some
Yeah,
subjects.
I
But again,
remember.
as
I
you
think it
said,
was. There was some English, there was some math, physics,
Literature.
literature,
Yeah.
and then you
For
had
me, it
group.
was literature. And again, as I said, my dad is an educationist, so he took
Yeah.
over physics
Okay.
and chemistry.
Okay.
And my mom did study biology a bit, so
Biology.
we did that. And again, that wasn't necessarily like always sitting down and having a lesson. There was a lot of
Okay.
self-learning, which brought a degree of discipline and uh, what's the word?
Independence.
Independence and self-monitoring.
Okay.
What is that
Okay.
word? Yeah,
Self-monitoring.
self-monitoring.
Yes.
Yes, that was absolutely critical to just the rest of my education career. I wasn't learning that in university like a lot of people do.
Right.
I was learning that at the secondary school level. It was so every week we'd have a meeting where it was like, okay, for each subject, this is what you've done, this is what needs to be covered, and so on.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so there was a lot of flexibility and freedom there, but also a lot of responsibility.
Right.
And
Right.
of course, there was external testing and so on. But that really set the stage for what my education journey turned out to be. I had a lot of autonomy, and my parents had a lot of faith in me, and a lot of
Yes.
faith in God that
Yes.
things would go
That
as
things
they were
will go well.
supposed to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it was.
Um,
I remember. I would ask Mama. I was like, Mama, why are they not going to school? And she would look at me and like, I think you're talking to the wrong person. I think you should be asking my husband because he's like, we are just going with it. We have no. We are hoping
I
it's
mean,
going to work out.
we had fun with it,
Yes, because
That
I
it
saw
was,
you having fun. I mean, the one question that most people you typically have for people for homeschooled is, what about your social life? And I mean, I know the answer to that because I saw it in you, but you can go ahead and answer that.
I actually would love to hear your answer
so my
first.
so
I hope
my,
it's
my what I came out of the whole homeschooling experience is the one way your parents did it was whatever funds that would have been used for tuition was used for um, proper education, like, oh, let's go to the museum in the UK, let's go to the US, let's interact with people. You were operating like a decade ahead of yourselves because you had all this exposure and you could interact with people. You're not some isolationist person. You didn't just like my book and I, but that gave you more time to meet people and in that case interact with people. So that's what I came out of it with.
That's exactly right. And the thing, and I think you phrased it really well in that the when it came to then the economic investment that would
Yes.
have gone into school fees, for
Yes.
example, that was used. I went to the Benin Museum every year for about
Right.
5 years in a row, right?
See? I didn't
We,
even know that, but yeah, that
yeah,
that that kind of
yeah.
give you now had a much more comprehensive education as opposed to just tunnel vision type of education, which is just, let me just stay here. So if you're talking about history, for example, you've been to the Benin Museum. If you're going to write a paper on history, you can literally talk about going to a museum and discussing what you saw. You didn't read that from a book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really, and we talk about nowadays, and in my field, and getting into this work, we talk about experiential learning.
Mm,
That really was experiential learning.
yes.
It was going and seeing how things work. It was, doing coding and robotics at a
Yes.
time when those were still very new,
Yes.
even and were not necessarily parts of school curriculum.
Yes.
It was, having additional time to start projects. As you may remember, I started the Reading Room
Reading room.
project,
Yes. In worry.
Warri, well
Yes.
as the Warri Science and Technology Center to be engaged in some of those things. So, and even other, time to advance, for example, in language. So we did take French lessons and I,
Yes.
did the French language exam. So by the time I entered college already having my French B2 certificate, right? So things like that. So there was a lot of flexibility and a lot of room for growth and sort of unorthodox ways that wouldn't have been possible within sort of a regular, structured
Structure.
system. So It was something that was unusual, and but because my parents were determined to make that investment, and because they had, they did have the background of education, it wasn't just sort of like, we'll see how it
How it
goes, but
goes. It
really
was
having a sense of how they wanted to enrich the education experience and make it part of life.
right.
And reading featured back again very strongly. We had all these books that we would read,
Yeah.
both as part of the curriculum, but also together as a family, reading
Okay.
about places all around the world. I remember reading about the Alhambra in Spain, the massive castle in Spain. And then I visited it a couple of years ago, and it
Ah.
was so amazing and a little bit emotional because I'd read about this place, I was 14, 15, reading
Right.
about the majesty of the Alhambra and the history of it and all of that. And then finally visiting in person, it was, such a cool experience. So things like that really just helped to enliven and to enrich the experience so that it wasn't, like you said, just like sitting down and just reading a book
Reading.
the whole
Yeah.
time. So it's
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the your pursuit of higher education. That story, I also have some information, and I remember asking, I remember asking your dad again, um, about how you took the SATs, how you got admission, and I remember asking him, what happens if she if she doesn't, get into college? He goes, oh, she's going to go to UI. She's going to do a she's going to do a correspondence course. I'm like,
I wasn't told you like he told me University of Abraka. It was like if
he
you
says,
like
"Oh,
you
she's
don't
going to go to
University
UI,
of Abraka
and
is there.
she's not going to even go on campus. She's going to be at home, and she's going to take a correspondence course." It's like,
Oh
okay,
my
all right, fine, I give up.
goodness.
So what was
Oh
that?
my
What was that
goodness.
process like? So you were able to
Yeah.
take the SSC. Just give me a
Sure.
rundown.
And I can and again, you look and you just acknowledge the grace of God actually
Yes,
throughout this whole process. So like I said, initially when we started, we were sort of doing a mix of the Nigerian curriculum and the British curriculum with
yes,
the idea that I would return to the UK and complete sixth form, upper sixth and lower sixth, and then go
oh,
to a
okay,
British university.
okay,
And
okay,
then I think it was in the second year of being homeschooled. My dad had gone to the generator woman to do something for the generator. I don't know,
okay,
something with the
okay,
generator. And he had seen, and she had, for some reason, she had a booklet from Harvard University.
okay,
And he brought that home and it was just there, and I read it and I looked at it, and it was an admissions booklet, and it talked about what you needed to get into Harvard and so on and all of
okay,
that. And I was
okay.
like, huh, this is actually, I could do this.
Right.
It's like when
Okay.
you look at this list, there's a little bit of naivety, but you're like, that's only five things: an
Yeah.
exam, an essay, and I could do,
I did that.
and so that opened up a different world that actually was not something we had considered previously. I'd never been to the US, didn't
Okay.
really know that that was an option. And it was this booklet from the generator woman's shop that made that conversation even happen. And
Interesting.
so that, yeah, that resulted in a little bit of a
Very interesting.
shift looking at the American curriculum, what was
Okay.
needed at the SATs. The internet is a wonderful, valuable resource that I think a lot of us don't maximize
Okay.
uh, as we can, because there's so much. I mean, that's where I found out, what exams I needed, where I could take them. Again, we didn't
Okay.
have
Okay.
access to an education counselor or someone who had, all that information. It was me and the internet cafe at Wellington
Oh wow.
Hotel. Really? Yes.
Wellington
So
Hotel in Warri.
yes, Wellington Hotel in Warri. And so you
Okay.
go and pay for your slip, and
Flip.
you get
Yeah, and then you
your
enter it
one
into
hour,
the
1 hour, 1 hour,
one.
enter it, and then you just save,
Say,
print,
say,
print,
print,
print
print,
the
print.
poetries. Now now we're more climate savvy, but you printed everything and then got
Yeah.
home and you were reading.
Reading.
Um, and then obviously later on dongles and so on. But that was where I began to realize that I had more options.
Okay.
And realizing what the pathway was. And so, as you said, took the SATs, took the subject tests. At the time, you could still take the ACTs as well.
Okay.
So I took those. And it was also, I mean, we were already doing some continuous assessment tests with another school, but it's also
Okay.
helpful to have sort of these external validators of learning.
Of learning.
Um,
Okay.
So I still took the IGCSEs because,
Okay. Just
that
in case.
was the initial plan. So I still took all of those, and ooh, I was examined out. But yes, I took all those
Yeah,
exams.
I remember you would probably then come to Abuja
Yes.
to write the exams and
Yes.
so let's settle this. What was your SAT score?
Oh, geez. Um, this is a hard one.
I think that's when
So
they
I took the
switched.
SATs twice.
Okay.
I think that's um I remember I got an 800 on critical reading, can't tell me nothing.
800.
Um
Oh my god.
yeah, and I got a 790 on writing. And I think my
Okay.
math was a 690. It was a
Okay.
690.
This was out of
Um
800, right? Was this
no, it was each section was out of, yeah, each section was out of
800?
800. You're correct. So I don't know, but that was, because they made it 3 sections. Now it's back to 2 sections. So
Yeah.
I don't know,
They,
but
they keep changing it. So
yeah.
so when you applied, um, how many admissions did you get? The when you first did the applications.
Gosh, Saeed, it's been a
I'm
minute. I
sorry.
should have
I'm
looked this
sorry.
up.
No,
I
it's fine.
remember that I applied to quite a few schools because
Okay.
then I was reading online, and the general knowledge, the general advice was applied to 8 schools. And I was like,
Okay.
well, I'm not American, I'm international, I'm from Nigeria, and I'm homeschooled. I
Yeah.
best apply to as many schools. So I think I applied to 18 schools, if I remember
Oh my day.
correctly. This was also a time when they was introducing online applications, I believe. So if you applied online, it was free or reduced.
Oh, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
yes.
That
So
was when the
it
online
was actually,
application was they were trying to
yes,
introduce people to
the
doing
common
stuff
app.
online. Yeah, the common
Exactly,
app.
encouraging more of that. So it wasn't nowadays you're paying,
They're
for
paying
everything.
application fees.
Um, exactly. So I applied to a whole bunch, and again, to be very honest, I at this point I'd still never been to America.
Right.
I was applying based on U.S. news rankings.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
applying to the top, top,
The
top,
top
top
two.
100, top
Yeah.
this, top that, top
Yeah.
this. Um, but I was really fascinated by the idea of liberal arts colleges, which is where I ended up with one of the best, if not the best, Amherst College.
Yes.
And the idea that, you know, again, building on what I'd done, the idea of this well rounded education where the focus was not on a particular major or like, getting admission to study one thing and studying that only,
Okay.
but having this foundation, getting a well rounded education, and then choosing to, within that, focus on something. So I was very much taken by that idea. And now
Okay.
the Amherst College website. So I did apply to Amherst College and a
Okay.
bunch of other colleges. I did get accepted to quite a few.
Okay.
Again, very thankful that they thought I was worth accepting. I remember so much Colgate University. I'll never forget the head of admissions actually wrote a little personal note on my
Oh wow.
acceptance letter. Like, we look forward to having you here. I was like, oh, I
Was
remember
that the
that.
one that offered you plane tickets back home every year?
Ah,
I know there was
no,
one. I know there was
there
one that
was
dad
one. I
said
don't,
part of the package was would give you
out
a
of the,
ticket home. We'll give you a ticket
say, you
home
know
every.
more about my,
I mean, I was fully vested in this because I was fascinated. It was Baba that told me. But I remember talking to your dad. And it was like, yes, there was one. It was like, but it didn't give her money. So why would I?
no,
Said I saw something. Said it didn't give her enough. I can't remember, but I remember the
it
one
did
that had.
have a,
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Colgate or not. I don't remember, but it's part of the, they had a scholarship, and then on having a slightly better understanding of the system now. I
Yes.
guess that the funding to support international students to go home came from a different place than the
Right.
funding for the
For
academic
this.
scholar, so
Yeah.
they didn't necessarily match. But yeah, and then I was looking at colleges. I remember I got accepted to Pomona on the West Coast. I really
Okay.
wanted to go. My
I
dad was
know.
like, school near the beach. You're not going to learn anything. Please
Oh,
go
no,
to another.
is
Like,
that
I was
what he
there
said?
filling out the roommate form, so
Are you serious?
excited. Yes. And my dad was like, no,
You're
no,
not
you're
gonna
not
learn
going to a
anything.
school. um, so yeah, I ended up choosing between Amherst and Williams.
Okay.
And I chose Amherst, and this is all on the web. This is based on the website. There was a
Okay.
forum, I don't know if it still exists, called College Confidential, where all of us super nervous mostly international students, but there were a lot of Americans who would go and be posting, I heard from this school, when do you hear from
Oh,
this
okay.
school, and so on.
Okay.
So and though that was actually another really great resource because it was information from people about their experience, about,
Okay.
what they
Okay.
saw when they went to visit this school or that school. I actually connected with a couple of people on that forum who were trying to, figure out where we'd end up, and we didn't end up at
Okay.
the same school. But yeah, so that was how I ended up at Amherst, that and a very, very, very generous financial aid package. That
Yeah.
yeah, that covered almost everything, covered a lot, thank God. And everyone, I mean, if you're listening to this, please go to Amherst College or at least apply. It's a selective school, but it's really
It
good.
is.
The education is top notch.
Yes.
And
I was gonna ask something about that.
mhm.
For people like me that are not very how will I put it? We are very tunnel visioned. You mentioned something about liberal arts education. Now, could you tell us what? Because I see it and I go, "Ah, liberal arts, are they drawing?" So there's always this lack of education. You understand in how this thing work. So, what is the difference? What is the difference between a liberal arts college and I don't know, a university? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this. I don't know if the terminologies are interchangeable. But what is the difference?
So this is not the dictionary definition. We might have to, ask
Okay.
Google for that. But one of the main things is if you think of like a big university,
Right.
I don't know, Howard
Stanford
University, for
or Howard. Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
Stanford, right? They have the college, which is the
Okay.
4-year undergraduate institutions. They probably also have a school of medicine, a school of architecture, a school of this,
Right.
that, the other for graduate students.
Okay.
But a liberal arts college is only just the 4-year institution, right? So they don't have
Oh.
graduate
Okay.
students. You're not, their focus is fully the undergraduates.
Okay.
And they give the majority of their degrees in the arts, the social
Yes.
sciences,
Okay.
and in those fields. So you can still, for example, you can get a degree in neuroscience from Amherst College. Absolutely, you can. And I think they had an architecture program and so on, but
Yes.
the majority of the degrees were social sciences, arts, and humanities. And of
Okay.
course, they had the sciences. You could get biology, chemistry, physics. You could get
Yeah.
those as
But
well.
they're usually
Um,
bachelors in art or BA or something.
yes, yes, exactly.
I've seen BAs in computer science sometimes.
I
I've seen. Okay, so
Yes.
what's the difference? So is it because of the curriculum that one is a bachelor's of science and one is a bachelor of arts? I'm trying to just for people that are listening. But anyways, if you don't know, it's fine.
Hey, that one passed my power. It passed my power. I cannot even tell you. I'm
Okay,
not even sure.
fair
But
enough.
what I can say is
Yeah.
that with the liberal arts system, again, only the undergraduate institution, what that means is that especially there's some really, really great liberal arts colleges, right? Like I said, Amherst, Williams, Swarthmore, all these great
Yeah.
colleges have top tier professors who are
Okay.
the top in their field, and all their focus is on
It's
the
undergrad.
undergraduates.
Right.
It's not like at a bigger university
Where
where,
you have
for
undergrad
example,
and
they would be
graduate.
overseeing master's students, exactly, who are more experienced and so on. So every class is taught by a professor. You're not getting
Oh,
lecturers. You're
really?
not getting TAs teaching. Every class is taught by a professor. If
Oh.
professors are doing research, which many of them are, their support and assistants are undergraduates. So that's how you have undergraduates
Oh,
getting
interesting.
published before you even have a bachelor's, right? Because they're working with these professors. So
Undergrads.
really, it opens up a whole new world of support, of connections, and of learning in a way that you would not necessarily get at a larger, university institution.
Yeah, that's why I have to bring your brother on an episode because your brother
Yes.
went to a liberal arts college, Swarthmore,
Yeah.
and he ended
Yes.
up at Harvard. But that's a different episode.
Yes. He did Swarthmore to Harvard.
Yeah. So, what were your initial challenges at Amherst? So, you got admission, you landed at Amherst, never been to the US, you know.
At that point, I'd been once. So
Well, I
by the
mean,
time,
it doesn't count.
yes,
But this is you.
it did
Well,
count.
it counted because you visited, but now you're coming here as a student. I'm sorry, I'm just I'm just
No,
having
no,
fun
no.
with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Of
But yeah, but,
course.
but now you're here. you're about to start college. How did you? What were the initial challenges, and how did you adapt?
First of all, I was terrified
Oh
the
wow.
whole time.
Okay.
I was 17 and I remember so clearly filling out the roommate forms and
Okay.
everything and then getting my dorm assignment and going with my mom and, dropping me off. We went to the Target nearby and got all the things.
Okay.
And then this woman had the audacity to drive off
Off.
and leave
And
me
you
in this strange country, in this strange place.
by
Um,
yourself.
by
By,
myself, Saeed. Can you
at
imagine?
at 17. No
At
clue.
17, surrounded by white people. No offense, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Um, so I think I'll just say along two sort of strands of thought. First of all, the emotional and social adjustment was quite intense.
Okay.
Again, the US is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yes, it is.
It was very different than what I was used to. And Amherst at the time, the only I think about 7% of the student body was international.
Seven
Yeah,
percent.
I think it was seven. Maybe it was more.
That is not a
Um,
lot of out of how
Not a
many?
lot. Not a lot. Was it seven? I really want to say seven. Anyway, I will. We might have to double check after this
That's
before
fine.
I slander their name. And there was also, the president of the college at the time, Tony Marks, making a big push for more internationals and more
Okay.
diversity more broadly.
Okay.
And so at the time, what was really, really was something that was really critical. I mean, apart from, of course, you get to know people and build friends. Amherst had a great International Students Association, so they
Okay.
helped us settle in, open bank accounts. I
Okay.
remember till today, I'm a loyal customer of Bank of America because they're the only ones who will open for a 17-year-old. you know,
Wow.
um,
Wow.
all those things, get phones and so on. And so I was so it made such a difference to my settling in process that
Okay.
I then became an active member of the International Students Association and was a co-chair for a couple of years. So
Okay.
there was that. And then surprisingly, academically, again, remember that I was coming from an experience where I was in charge of my own learning. So I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
have
That's true.
to adjust a whole lot. Because, you
Okay.
gotta
So
you get your
you're already used to that style.
exactly, at the beginning of the year of the term, the professor gives the syllabus. It's like, oh, you'll be
Okay.
reading this. I was like, cool, cool. I can manage my time. I can.
Okay.
So I was really grateful that I wasn't having to do that adjustment as well. But of course,
Okay.
there's always a little bit of adjustment to teaching styles. What does it mean
Okay.
to be part of a classroom? How does group work? All these, all the different things that one does have to adjust to. But
That's
I
true.
am forever grateful that my homeschooling experience prepared me to be more in charge of my own learning. I wasn't
Okay.
scared that, oh my gosh, I have to read all these things and figure this out. You have one class and then you have
Okay.
all this work and no one's really holding your hand. So that's something
Yeah.
that I was able to adjust to pretty quickly. And now looking back, it's actually this year marks my 10 years graduation, 10 years of my graduation from Amherst College. I know, yeah, it's
Ten
my 10
years.
year 10 years. Time
Where
time
did the time
flies.
go?
I know.
So what did
But
you
I'm so grateful for
what
it.
did you get into study? So that's another thing. Um,
That's the
what did
beauty of liberal arts. You get
okay?
in. You
You,
get in. And
yes.
then you choose.
So how did you choose? How,
Okay, so how did I choose?
how did you choose?
I chose, again, God bless my parents. They had a lot of faith in God and then in me. So I chose, I think I knew I wanted to study economics. And this is
Okay.
because prior to getting into college, obviously I had done economics for IGCSE and so on.
Right.
And I'd
Right.
been doing some reading more broadly. I mean, this was the era of like Freakonomics and all of
Yes.
that.
Yes. I
Uh,
remember that. Yes. I remember that. Yes.
yes. And just really loved the idea of studying how systems work, these world systems. And,
Okay.
coming
Okay.
from Nigeria, you ask anybody of a certain generation why, and they start with, well, structural adjustments
Adjustment. Right.
and
Okay.
all those
Okay.
things. So I really did want to learn more about that. And I had this sense that, economists were people who knew things about things and made
Yes.
things happen.
Right.
I
So you
can't
wanted
really say that
you
worked out.
you can. You, now you're finding out in real time. Anyways,
Yeah.
so you
And then
wanted to do
I
economics, yeah?
also,
Go
and then
ahead.
I took a sociology class. I took an intro to sociology.
Okay.
Out of interest, I was, sort of interested by it was an intro to anthropology and sociology.
Okay.
And I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I had especially one professor, not the intro class, one of the second classes, Professor Ronald Lembo. This
Okay.
man, amazing, amazing, just explaining and really engaging and listening. And, and now I look back and I'm like, this poor guy was talking to a bunch of like 18, 19-year-olds
Right.
and, listening to us like our thoughts mattered. But he was
Okay.
such an amazing professor and he is 100% the reason why I became a sociology major. So I double majored in economics and
Economics.
sociology. And then
Okay.
Amherst didn't have minors. We had certificates. So then I did two
Okay.
certificates. I did international relations and I believe
Okay.
African studies.
Okay.
So I ended up filling my time, but
Right.
also really doing a lot of things that I really enjoyed as well, which was great.
Did you forget the Spanish?
Oh, well, I did. I took I
You
took a few
see,
semesters of Spanish.
you
I
see,
did.
even I
Um,
know that. So so double
it
major
was
in economics, sociology, certificates in international
international
studies,
relations
international
and
relations,
African studies,
African
which
studies,
is where the Spanish came in
which
because
is
you
where
had
the
to take a
Spanish
language
came,
for international relations.
and you didn't
Um,
want to take French because you spoke French already.
well, and because yeah,
Yeah.
I had spent a lot of time in French classes, so I was
So
excited. And isn't Spanish just Spanish sounds lovely?
it does. I
It's
just don't get it. I've tried.
what it's
I've tried.
no, it's
My wife.
lovely. It's
Maybe
lovely.
maybe I should connect you with my wife is trying to learn Spanish now. And
Yeah.
because we live in California, you better know how to speak
Mm-hmm.
Spanish because
Mm-hmm.
it's the
Mm-hmm.
language of
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
state. Um,
Mm-hmm. Y a mí me gusta mucho la lengua.
all right, fine. There you go. You did that. So
Yeah.
now I know how your undergraduate experience kind of shaped your. So how did you get into international development? Did you so
Um,
did you do that? Did you work? So what was your after you graduated? What did you do?
after I graduated, I was confused for a long time, as
Oh,
many
okay.
people are. It's like, what am I going to do? What is this? What is this? And I had this economics degree, but I didn't necessarily want to go into finance, which was what a lot of
Okay.
people did. I'm so
Oh,
sorry
okay.
to finance bored me to tears.
Oh,
And investment banking just seemed like a lot.
okay.
And of course, as you know, my mom works in international
Sure.
development.
Right.
Um, she is a gender specialist and
Yes.
leadership and works in leadership training as well. So I always knew, okay, that field was not unfamiliar to me.
Right.
But again, going back to my love of reading and learning and literature, I really felt that I wanted to do something education related. So
Okay.
Amherst did not have an
Okay.
education major, but the last year I was there, they did start to sort of look at what education programs could look like. And so I was
Okay.
part of a
Okay.
program that we did a trip to Chicago. I remember went to U Chicago and talked to the students who were learning education there. And there was some,
Okay.
they were putting together something. And so coming
Okay.
out of Amherst, I really did want to explore education more. So I ended up getting a job at Lit Life, which was an
Okay.
education consulting organization that was based in New York,
New York. Okay.
and was run by two Amherst alums who married each
Oh,
other.
okay. Interesting.
Yes. And they hired a whole bunch of Amherst alums too.
Well,
So
they
the
know
alumni network in
they
action.
know the quality of what they're getting,
They
so might
they,
as well
they
just
did.
get someone that went to our school. Okay.
Yeah, and it was really great. And the organization, worked on literacy, specifically English language arts. So teachers supporting them with materials for their classrooms and
Okay. Okay.
supporting teachers in the classroom. So it was great, and it was a great sort of it allowed me to kind of dip my toes into the education space the
Okay.
way I want, the way I was looking for. So I was doing stuff with teachers in public schools,
Okay.
also supporting a public school library program,
Okay.
and all these different things. So it was really, really, it was a great experience that lasted exactly 11 months, maybe 10
Yes.
months.
Okay.
Yes, because OPT finished.
OPT. Yeah. OPT finished, And
OPT
it was
finished.
right after your OPT that they changed economics to a STEM degree.
I know.
Yes, I remember. I remember we had that discussion. That was right about the time I was gonna be here, I think. So I
It
came in
would have, I think,
I came in 2015.
yes.
You were just slightly about to try. I had just started grad school. You were about to transition. You were trying to. We were talking about the whole OPT thing, and of course the hack of the coupons, which we're going to talk about. Your your coupon hacking, which we still haven't figured out yet. But you were trying to decide what you were going to do next at that point in
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Um.
Uh,
So what did you do?
well, and also, credit to my employers at Lit Life. They had never sponsored anyone, but they were fully willing, to keep me on as an employee. And I got
Oh
a
wow.
lawyer, and they paid to go through the H-1B and the
Yeah,
lottery.
the
But of
lottery. Oh,
course,
okay.
21-year-old me making 30K or what it was in New York, I was
What?
lotteried out
Oh
instantly.
wow.
Then I was like, okay, so what comes next? And then I was like, you know what? Let me go back to Nigeria and do youth service.
Yes,
Um,
I remember when
and
I was like,
yeah,
why would you? I was confused back there. I was like, I wish you could stay. Was this the time you had that famous car that Baba talked about? Was this in Boston or was this? We're gonna get there,
oh,
right?
the car, no, the car was, oh gosh, the car was before, the car was one of my summers. So
Yes, I
really, I
remember.
was very big on summer internships, and Amherst was very supportive. They provided financing if you got an unpaid internship, especially
Okay,
one that was, uh, more community focused. So I
okay,
interned every single summer at Amherst. In hindsight, looking back, maybe I wouldn't have interned my first summer. I would have taken a little bit of time to
right.
just rest and kind of just absorb everything. But so I interned at a middle school summer
Okay.
program. My first summer, my second summer, I went to India with
Oh
a
yes,
really
I
good
remember.
friend.
I remember
Yes,
your Indian
yes,
trip. Yes.
yes. So I interned in India in Udaipur, and then my third summer, I interned with a social consulting organization in North Carolina, which was when I
Okay.
bought the car that turned
Okay.
out to be a lemon that gave everybody no end of
Ah,
headaches.
yes.
Yes,
It
yes,
was.
yes.
It was. It was
It
a very.
was an adventure. It was also when I had a wisdom tooth pulled and there was a
Yes.
lot of pain. I think my brain has blocked out a lot of that summer
Yeah,
for
I
different
remember
reasons.
I remember the little story. So you went back to Nigeria for your youth service. So
Yes.
tell us how you then decided to say, you know what, I'm going to do a master's in global health development,
Human development, global human development.
global human development. Yeah, I have
Yes.
it on here. Okay, global human development. So yeah, how did that
Okay.
happen? Because I know when you went back, I was like, I wish you didn't have to go back to Nigeria. You didn't even know whether you're going to come back. You were just like,
No, I didn't. I
yeah,
didn't. And honestly, this is, just having faith that God will lead you where you need to be. I didn't know
yeah,
that I was going to come
come
back.
back.
I knew
Yeah.
that I wanted to do a master's, but I also knew that I was really enjoying being free of school. I was
Yes, I remember
enjoying having a nobody.
you
It's
didn't want
like
to do any more school. I remember we spoke. You're like,
exactly,
no more school for me.
exactly. I was
4 year
very
Amherst
happy.
was a lot of work. You
It
wanted to be rid
was.
of school. So what
Yes.
changed? What happened? So you go back to Nigeria.
Go back
Um,
to Nigeria, did some volunteering, got into did my NYSC, was posted to Kaduna, Camp
okay,
Blackgold, and was teaching at GGSS
okay.
Barnawa.
Oh, GTSS.
Finished up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know, yeah, I was
I
teaching at
did.
GGSS Barnawa.
That must have
Government
been
Girls
very, very
Secondary School.
interesting.
It was. That's a whole other thing. But it was. I met some lovely people.
Okay,
Made some great friends
okay.
that I still, have till today, both at the school and just through NYSC in general.
Oh,
And
okay.
interestingly enough, I think of the people I know who, especially the people I met, fellow international students, and people who've become really, really close friends that
Right.
we were in Amherst together or even just went to college together. I was the first to do NYSC
Okay.
because I came back so early.
Right.
So I did it, actually loved it. Of
Yes.
course, it wasn't easy, but learned a lot. And then was connected to Dr. Mo Adefesola Teju at the Education Partnership Center, so TEP
Okay.
Center, and started
Okay.
working more on education policy,
Okay.
um, working with organizations and kind of working on education in Nigeria, but also thinking about education more broadly. And
Okay.
that was when I began to think that, maybe it would be helpful to go back and get a master's and kind
Oh,
of,
so that's
you know,
that's where the light bulb. So
yes,
walk us through that
yes.
process. Now that process, all I know was your dad calls me one day and he says, "Oh, Foluyinka is going to be going to Georgetown." Like, oh, she's coming back.
You know, that was about as much as they knew of the process. I think I
Ru-
remember my mom saying, "Oh, you were talking about a master's, aren't you going to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, but living and when you living at home in Nigeria, where in Abuja, I had a good job, had my
Right.
money, had a
Right.
car. I
Okay. It
wasn't
was
in a
every.
rush to go back to school, But
Yes.
as I decided, I said, okay, yes. And actually, that decision was made just towards the end of my youth service. So by the
Okay.
time I was signing on with TEP Center, I remember telling Mo that I'm going to be here for a year and then I'm going
Okay.
to go to my master's. She was like, okay, if that changes, let me know. We'd love to have you.
Okay.
She's an amazing, amazing, inspiring lady. She also was part of the inspiration for the master's because she had a master's and a PhD in
Oh.
education. It's like,
Okay.
wow.
Wow.
And
Okay.
she was, a practitioner out here working, not a lecturer in a university. So that
Right.
was also very inspiring. So again, I looked at different education programs, what
Yes.
looked good, what lined up with what I wanted. Took myself off. At this point when you're an adult, it's not like, oh, you ask, oh, Baba, the SAT cost this
Yeah.
much. No, this time
Yeah.
the GRE costs
You,
are on you. So,
yes.
you have
So
to.
you
So I
so you
had a
took the
little side
JRE.
hustle. Exactly. I had a side hustle with SAT prep. So I was
Oh,
able to,
okay.
get some extra money and use that. So I did the GRE. Um, got the scores. Don't ask me what they were. I don't
I can't.
remember. They were
Don't
great.
worry. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. I'm not
They,
gonna. I know you remember
they were.
the SAT ones, not the
It
GRE ones.
sticks with you.
Yeah,
It
you
sticks with you.
because it's so you did that. And how many schools did you? I know you did. You apply to Howard? You got into Howard, right?
I did not get into. I got into Harvard. I did not
Oh,
apply
you
to
got into
Howard.
Harvard. Oh, okay. For for the
I
for the MA
for the
program.
master. Yes,
Okay.
so I applied to mostly education programs. Again, there was another online forum, looking at different programs. But I did want to do international education.
Okay.
So Harvard has a great international education program.
Okay.
UPenn has a great one. Columbia
Okay.
has a really good one.
Okay.
Vanderbilt has a really good
Vanderbilt.
one. So
Okay.
that's yeah. Stanford has a good one.
Okay.
So those are the ones those are all like my initial plan and I applied to them. And then I saw this Georgetown program on global human development. And I was like, this looks interesting. It's not education, but I
Okay.
was drawn to it because it did include education. So one could
Okay.
focus on
Okay.
education. Um, and it was very practitioner oriented. You were going to have two internships. You were going to do,
Oh, okay.
there was such a strong focus on practitioners. The lecturers were practitioners, right? They're
Oh, the
people who
lecturers are
are,
practitioners. Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
they're, World Bank staff or, prior, just in the field of
Field.
development and working on this. So I was like, this
Okay.
looks interesting. That was my wild card application. That was my wild card
Wow.
application. And so when acceptances came in, I remember Vanderbilt was my first acceptance.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I guess you're going to Tennessee. And I was
Right.
like, hi. Allow the other ones to let me know. But I was super excited because
Yeah.
Vanderbilt has a great program. And then other acceptances started coming in. And then I'll be really honest with you. At
Yeah.
this point, practicality entered the
Yeah.
chat. Who gave me the most
Most
money?
money. Yep.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
Not,
is the money coming
where's the
from?
money? Yep.
So it was at that point, the likes of Harvard dropped off because they were like, "Oh, you can come, but no
And
money." I said,
how much
"Great."
was that? Too? That must have been an arm and a leg.
And your kidney too. So it was expensive.
Whoa.
Um, And I think, particularly for what I was looking for, their program is excellent. It is a
Yeah.
1 year program, the education program. So you
Right.
start in September and you finish in May.
Ooh.
And I spoke to a couple of people who had done it and they were like, it's great, but as soon as you start, you're already planning for the next step. You don't
Oh
really
no.
have time to really kind of soak in the program. So I was looking more for 1.5, 2 year programs.
Okay.
So it came down to, I believe, Georgetown and Stanford.
Oh, so you got
And
into Stanford as well.
I did, and they have a fabulous, fabulous program. And really, the decision was made because at the end of the day, they upped their they upped their scholarship offer, which is
Really?
great. Yes, because I told them that Georgetown offered me a full scholarship, so if they didn't mind, could
Oh,
they try to match it? And they did.
oh, they
And
did.
then I thought, no, they did, they
Oh my
did.
God.
And then I really had to decide. And again, this is where the practitioner orientation of the JHD program comes in, because the Stanford
Okay.
program is great and is very research oriented. So I
Okay.
had actually been awarded some sort of, I believe, a dean's fellowship to support
Oh,
further research.
okay.
And I just wasn't sure at the time that I wanted to be so deeply entrenched in the research world. I did want to do something that
Okay.
was still kept me very connected to the work that was going on in the development world, that was very
Right.
relevant. And of
Right.
course research
Right.
is, but I just wasn't sure that that's where I wanted to be.
Okay.
um
Okay.
and yeah, so that's how I ended up at Georgetown. And I will
Wow.
say also another little plug for Amherst, because
Okay.
Amherst College, remember, this college does not have a graduate studies department or whatever, but they
Yes.
actually have scholarships for students who do go into graduate studies within five
No.
years of graduating from
No.
Amherst.
No way.
Amherst gave
Don't,
me money to go to
don't
Georgetown.
tell. They give you money to go to grad school.
Yes, yes. And they give money for law school, and they give money. So, like,
What?
when I say go
I
to
didn't
Amherst
know
College,
that.
no, I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
I
So
should have
I
gone to.
got,
I should have just gone to one of those schools.
yes,
They
you
give you.
should have.
They give you money
You
towards
should have.
tuition or living costs, or what did they give you?
Living costs. So it's towards
Wow.
living costs. So I ended up, I think it was a good amount that just about covered health insurance and a little bit of books and so on. So
What, so did you
for
just apply to
Georgetown, I had
them?
a,
Did you just
sorry?
apply to Amherst and tell them, or
Yeah, I just kind of wrote to them, was like, hey, I graduated 3 years, I mean, I think it was about 3 years ago, and I have
right,
received admission to here, proof of admission.
right?
And then they were like, great, we love that as an Amherst alum, you're going out and doing something, and here you go, have some money.
I'm sending my kids
And
to
then
Amherst.
you
I'm
should,
sending my kids there.
because for the second year, when I
Yes.
was renewing it, I had to go to the director of my program at GHD to get it signed off that I was in good standing in the program. And he's like,
Wow.
I don't understand. Amherst is giving you money? I was like, yeah, yeah, they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna sit on the Amherst website throughout today.
You should. You should.
She's
It's
gonna
great
go.
and has only gotten better.
She's gonna go do biology or something, and
Whatever
then
she
and
wants.
then maybe she can go to med school, and then Amherst can pay. I'm just kidding.
I mean, a lot of people go to med school. So I have multiple friends who've gone from
Oh, really?
Amherst to medical school. One of my close friends, actually, she just got married last October. She is completing her OBGYN residency.
Oh, wow.
Um, and
Already?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's
Wow.
lot of really cool things. But yeah, so that was how I ended up at Georgetown. Again, Foluyinka, and choosing schools based on websites.
Yes.
Um, though I had been to DC while I was in undergrad, I'd never
Right.
actually been to Georgetown. So of
No.
course, after you have agreed and paid, Foluyinka now shows up at the school and he's looking around that, oh,
Oh,
this is what it looks
looks
like.
like.
So very
So,
interesting.
so this was
Um,
a return back. So what was the different experience like? So you've done undergrad, you came in as very young students, and this time that you're coming back. So what was the difference?
Being older
Right.
was really good. There, just having had work experience. So I was just a little bit more secure in my self, in my place,
Okay.
and the program I was in at the GHC program at the Georgetown School of Foreign Service really valued, work experience,
Okay.
and was structured in such a way as to build on that and enrich and augment it. So
Okay.
that was really, really great. Of course, going back to school is not easy. One can confess now that one is no longer in school that,
Right.
after the first term, anytime there were like 5 readings assigned, your girl
Yeah.
did one and
Wow.
got through somehow. But
So-
but
wow.
the going back to school is not easy. Again, especially when you're used to work that is immediate and practical and relevant. You're doing X for Y, this is for
Right.
this. Going back to school and doing a paper for a professor is it's a little bit of an adjustment.
Right.
But
Right.
fabulous, fabulous program with amazing, amazing professors who really just opened my eyes and really shared of themselves and their experiences and their knowledge in a way that was so valuable.
Okay.
And so with Georgetown, you do two internships. You do a summer internship and you do a
Okay.
term time internship in DC.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I did my summer internship in Lusaka, Zambia, which was
Oh,
amazing. Yeah, I was with
how
ID
how how do
Insight.
you how do you get to go to all these exotic places? How
I
how
applied.
are you serious? That's all you did?
Yes, they were looking for interns and I applied.
So what did you do? What did you do in Zambia?
So ID Insight is an impact evaluation organization, or that's what they were doing primarily.
Okay.
Looking at, so that's looking at, working with governments and different development partners to look at sort of the
Okay.
impact of different programs, what can be done to improve them, how can,
Okay.
providing that sort of support. So I worked specifically on a cash program that was being developed, the cash transfer program
Conditional
that was being
transfer. Okay.
yes, I was being implemented by the government of Zambia in collaboration with UNICEF and some other partners.
Wow.
I believe it
Okay.
was UNICEF, yes. So that was great. I had a blast. 2 months in Zambia.
Months.
Loved it.
Wow.
I also had a couple of friends from my graduate school program who were also in Lusaka. So of course we jamboreed
Oh,
all
okay.
around Lusaka. And it was really good. It was a really great experience.
And the second
My
internship?
term, sorry?
Yeah, you're gonna say the second internship was what you said.
Yeah, my term internship I did at the Brookings Institution, which is
Oh,
a fabulous, a fabulous
wait.
institution here in
D Brook
DC.
D Brook. There's only one that I know.
Brookings. Well,
Yes, it's that one. That's the one you did your.
I
Oh,
think so.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Brookings has a Center for Universal Education,
Okay.
which was at the time led by Rebecca Winthrop, who is still there.
Okay.
And I had the honor of working with her, working under her, and working with some other amazing colleagues on some research around playful learning and around different innovative learning programs that were being implemented around the world and how to
Okay.
track some of them. And so that was,
Okay.
again, another really, really great experience.
Okay. Okay.
So, and then again, GHD program is amazing. So what happens in GHD is that instead of a thesis or,
A
uh,
project like a
like a final
master's project.
project,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I had done a thesis in Amherst and it was great. And I got to do original research for the first time. It was a sociology thesis and I
Okay.
learned
Okay.
so much. And then I wrote this like amazing 200-page thing that nobody except me and my professors ever read. So
Okay.
it was just chilling there. But so what GHD does is your capstone project is
Yeah.
a consulting project.
Oh, really?
So what
Okay.
you do, yeah, so what you do is you go out into the big bad world
Right.
and offer yourselves to organizations or, institutions, and you're like, hey, I have
I
your
really
capstone
like that
project.
kind of project. It's
Exactly.
it's
And
really very practical. It's not something that you can make up. It's not some
exactly,
theoretical thing.
exactly. And I
Wow.
was working with, so we are paired up. So I was working with a colleague from the program, who's also a friend, a great friend, and we spent a few weeks talking to different people from different organizations.
Okay. Okay.
Where do you think we could help you? What could be of use? And then thinking about sort of our skills and what value we could add with our knowledge.
Okay.
And we were connected to JRS, Jesuit Refugee Service,
Okay.
who were really interested in, they themselves were interested in bringing on consultants. So they were like, oh,
Oh,
you
okay.
need consultants? We will take
We'll
you.
take you.
Um,
Right. Okay.
yeah, to do some work around the gender aspect of some of their programs, and
Okay.
it was
Okay.
a great, great project. As part of that, we went to Malawi to see some of their work at Zaleka refugee camp.
Wow.
And
So
then at the end of
you're
the
not for
project,
traveling again.
yeah. And at the end of the project, they also flew us to Rome, at the headquarters to present to some of the leadership and actually one of their big donors. And it was
Interesting.
really great to do some work that was not sort of us imagining a problem and solving it, but they had
Yes.
said, look, we would actually want your support on this particular thing. So the resources we pulled together, the decks we created, everything we
Right.
created was
Right.
immediately useful,
Okay.
immediately,
Okay.
and immediately incorporated into their work. And we also ended up doing a webinar for their global staff, to kind of share what we learned, what we started putting in place, and what their colleagues were
Wow.
going to take on. So that was a super valuable experience that
Wow.
really, coming out of graduate school, you don't have many opportunities to contribute in that way, to
Right.
contribute in a way that's immediately useful. And that is something that also that becomes part of your portfolio, that you can say, look, I'm a new graduate, yes, but hey,
Yes.
I did this,
This and that.
I did this internship, I did this, and I've also done this amazing consulting project. So that was
Wow.
really a really great opportunity, and I was very fortunate to be working with someone that I knew and liked, because we know,
Okay.
as you know, when
Okay.
you work with one person on a long-term project, it can
Project.
get a little, yes, but we're great colleagues and great friends, and that's something that has been one of the most valuable experiences, one of my most valuable educational experiences. So
That's a
Georgetown.
that, that's a wow. That's a wow thing. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did that all prepare you? Well, this you've kind of answered this next question. How did that all prepare you for your current career in global education advocacy? You kind of talked about everything, but maybe now we want to talk about what you do. So what do you do right now that you are allowed to share?
Oh my goodness, I'm not in the CIA. I'm allowed to share what I do.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Just you never know because with all this great, you've been to Lusaka, you've been to this place, you just never know. But what do you do right now? How has all this experience shaped what you currently do?
So currently, I am an advocacy specialist,
Okay,
um, with the Global Partnership for Education. And the
okay,
Global Partnership for Education is a fund within the World Bank. We're
okay,
hosted at the World Bank. And our main goal is to transform education systems in low and lower middle income countries, so that
oh,
every
okay,
child is receiving a quality education. And we do
oh,
that
okay,
primarily by providing grants to governments through the ministries
okay.
of education, to address sort of specific areas that they have identified through the process of creating
So,
a partnership compact with
so when
us.
you say governments, are you talking about countries, or you're actually talking
Yes,
about countries? So,
countries, yes. So
so
it's
who have you worked with that you can share? What kind of w- w- just give us kind of give me or give me an idea of what a typical day for you is like, because this sounds like a lot of work. So I'm trying to figure out um what is the typical day for Foluyinka. What is it like?
email. Lots and lots of emails. So
Okay.
as you can imagine, GPE has different departments and areas,
Right.
and I'm not in the side of the house that does sort of manage the grants or oversee the work with the country. So on the advocacy side, what we do is, because GPE is country led. So what that means is, like, we don't come in with funding and say you must do X, Y, Z. What we do is come in and we have this education, there's this opportunity for this education financing. You tell us what are the priorities that you see in your education systems, what are the areas that are of highest priority to you, that you think by addressing those you can achieve the highest level of transformation within the whole education system. And then they say, we really need to focus on we really need to focus on teachers, on you know school infrastructure, or you know feeding children in school, because children are hungry and they're not learning. And then we say great, and then my amazing smart colleagues work with them.
Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, I heard you.
Oh, let's continue. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I got everything that you said.
Okay, great. So colleagues work with them on the, arranging the financing, managing the grant, and all of that, and we work through grant
Okay,
agents. What I do on my side is, together with obviously my team and my colleagues in the global advocacy team, and more broadly external relations, we work on building the political will to address some of
oh,
these key
okay,
issues. So,
okay,
for example, because we're not going to go tell countries that gender equality must be a priority, even though we
okay,
believe that it should. What we do then is, okay, how do we work with partners externally to build political will so that governments see gender equality as an issue and
okay,
want
okay,
to address it. And sometimes that's through, of course, the big global moments, regional moments, meetings,
okay,
declarations,
okay,
commitments, and so on. So that's what we do, trying to work with partners really to get those kinds of commitments from leaders and decision makers to make issues like gender equality, like climate change, like
okay,
um, you know, um, different things, ed tech and all of that, to make them a priority and to be, directing their efforts and their financing towards that as well. So right now, my portfolio, I cover climate change and our youth engagement,
okay,
and talking about the impact of climate change on education, making education systems more climate resilient, and of course
okay,
engaging young people. And of course, the team as a whole, we cover different areas. So, for example, 2 weeks ago, I was at the African Union Summit in Addis, where
wow,
GP
okay.
together with the with the president of Ghana, we
You
hosted a
you were
side event.
you were chum with the president of Ghana. Is that what you said?
That's one way to put it. I was chum about 5 feet away. Yes, yes.
Really?
Um,
We
yeah. So
need to share. I need to share. I need to get more pictures of this. Well,
I need to get pictures, Said. I didn't get any pictures. I was busy running around. But
oh
what was
no.
really cool? Because at COP last year, where
Yes.
again, we had the linkage between climate change and education, we were there with the
Right.
Minister of Education from Malawi.
Yes.
And she saw me, doing everything. So when she was at the AU summit, so I mean, it was really such a cool moment where this Minister of Education is telling, who was I think she was telling another minister. She was, yes, yes. Once I saw Foluyinka, I knew that
Yes.
things were going to be running in tip-top shape. Look at her running around,
Wow.
busy, busy, busy. I was like, meanwhile, I was just glad this lady recognized me, but she was,
Wow.
yes, I know you're here. So those are the pinch yourself moments that did I just what? Did I just get
Wow.
complimented and recognized by
So
this
so
amazing
so I
public
have
servant?
so I have a question. How
Yes.
did you get this job? What did you do? I mean, for listeners, because a lot of people just assume that you know, and that's one of the things I want to do with this program is to dispel the notion that you need to be some superhero or you need to be connected in one way or the other. How did you get this? What you're mentioning, just in passing, is the dream job for a lot of people, myself included. Now,
It's
what?
my dream job. It's my dream job
It's your
too.
dream job. See, so
Not
how did
every
you get it?
day. On the emails time, I'm like, oh, but yeah, it's really cool. I mean, last year we were doing stuff at Unga with Roger Federer. I mean, listen,
With Roger
dreams.
Federer, with
The tennis player.
Foluyinka, this
Have you
is not
seen my Instagram? Me and Roger are besties.
this is not fair. I have to. I'm going to officially report you to your parents for not being nice, by not sharing. I just see your Instagram. I see the flights. I see we okay. We're not going to discuss how you hack the flights, but we see we see. I see everything with Roger Federer.
Yes, which is awesome. But let me get back to your question of this
Yeah,
job. Um,
let's answer the question. How did you get the job?
and I think it's also important, like you said, to dispel some of these notions because
Yes.
it can be really hard from the outside trying to understand, how people get into these positions. And I
Yeah.
think even for me, I've been in this job now almost 4 years, right? And
Okay.
it's
Okay.
now, this is, I mean, of course, there was COVID and all of that, but
Right.
it's not, it's not something that happened overnight. So,
Yes.
you mentioned something actually. You mentioned knowing people and networking, and that
Yes.
is a huge part of getting a job. But it's not necessarily in the way we might think of it in Nigeria
Right.
as, oh, I
Right.
know
I know
somebody, or
somebody.
my
Yeah.
uncle, or right.
Yeah.
But it's really that nobody nobody knows about you and what you do unless you talk to them,
Talk
unless
about
you
it.
tell them.
Right.
And so this particular job, so actually out of after leaving Georgetown, I didn't have a job. I mean, I was job hunting like everyone else.
Okay.
And I was looking for almost 2 months, and I had done a consultancy that allowed me, gave me some money where I was then able to support myself over the summer. But you're getting to the end
Okay.
of the summer and it's getting a little bit hairy. You're like, okay,
Yes.
what,
What
like,
do you have to do? What do
okay,
you? What?
Lord, what do you have?
Yes.
And I'm starting from here because this is where the importance of networking.
Okay.
A professor at Georgetown at my program, GHD. Remember that
Okay.
I'd said all the professors were practitioners, either ex
Yes.
practitioners or
Yes.
currently practicing.
Yes.
So they were connected to various networks. And
Okay.
one of the professors had received a request for an organization. They were looking for a consultant to help on a specific project. So they were like,
Okay. Okay.
not someone too senior, but if there's anyone in your network, please let them know. And so she
Okay.
had sent it out, to the students. GHD is a small program. I think there were like 20 something of us that year. And so she
Okay.
sent it out to the students. Some weren't interested, some were, but I had applied and I had gone in to interview with them. This was the
Okay.
International Center for Research on Women, where I've really been blessed, met some amazing women who have become mentors to me, even though I no
Okay.
longer work there.
Okay.
And I went in for that interview and, had a chat with them, shared my work, was able to
Yeah.
share, the
Yeah. Okay.
consultancy I'd done and all of that, and the work I'd done with JRS, which came in
Right.
handy. Um, and then I left and was, okay. And I remember because a friend had had a baby, so I'd, gone to see her, and I was walking, and I got a call from them, and I was like, oh hi, they were like, yes, we really loved talking with you.
Right.
We'd love to have you for the consultancy, but I say, hey, which kind of but?
Okay.
Really? And so they said, how do you feel about making it a job?
Eh?
I said,
What?
excuse me.
So
I
it
was like,
was meant to be a short consultancy,
yes, and they were
but
offering
how did
me
it
a
become?
job.
And they were not offering you a job. So,
They were offering me a job.
okay, first of all, you mentioned an acronym, JRS. What's JRS again?
Sorry, Jersey Refugee Service, the folks I
Okay,
did my capstone project with.
the capstone project. So this person has sent an email to your professor asking for a consultant to work
Yes.
on a project.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did it become a job?
It was
Wow.
God. I wish I could say I'm so brilliant, but you know me, I'm actually not that brilliant. No, but
You are, by the way. But go
no,
ahead.
no, but they had, I think, being able to share that, the experiences I'd recently had, the consultancies I'd
Right.
recently done, the work I'd done, they felt confident enough to take me on, not just as a consultant, but to fill a gap in the team. And I was
Wow.
like, and the first thing I said was, I'm on OPT. I can only do this for 11 months.
Right.
Um, and they said, fine.
Oh, wow.
They were, yep, fine with it. They wrote me an 11-month contract. I had health insurance. I had
Oh, wow.
benefits. I had a good salary. I was thanking God all the way, all the way. And so that was my first job at the International Center for Research on Women. And it was
Okay.
amazing. I was on the gender economic empowerment and livelihoods team and got to do a lot of really a variety of work on a variety of interesting projects. And I was a research and programs associate. So what that meant was while I was doing stuff on the research side, I was also
Okay.
managing programs and some partnerships, right?
Okay.
But
Okay.
budgets, some of those more practical aspects as well.
Your,
Um,
your mom must have been very excited.
I
This
think
is
I
exactly
think
what she does. This is
you're
like a
only
mirror.
happy I was employed.
True. But wow, I mean, it's so
Very
beautiful
full
to see.
circle,
Very
full
full
circle
circle because
moment.
she does.
Yes.
Did you piggyback on her like, Mama? What do you think about this? How would I do this? Or does she piggyback on you and say, what's going on in this field now? 'Cause she knows so much about, gender.
She does. She does. I think it's great we're able to share resources.
Okay,
And
okay.
she has obviously a depth of experience and wisdom that
Yes.
I hope to have one day.
Right,
Um,
right.
but on the daily, because we're actually working in sort of different, I mean, now of course we're in different fields
Yeah,
more,
yeah,
but
yeah.
even then, because our focus was a bit different and it wasn't like we weren't sort of bumping up against each other so much that I could go to her on,
Right,
on a daily
right,
basis. But
right.
broadly, I did benefit from her experience for sure. And I continue to.
Yeah.
Um, so what happened was when I was still sorry, back to the networking
Yeah.
piece.
Yes.
This was pre-COVID. So one thing I
Okay,
did, and that's the benefit of being in DC, which is one of the reasons I chose Georgetown, is all these organizations are having events, right? I was going
okay,
to, CG Dev was Center for Global Development was putting on events, Brookings was
okay,
putting on events. People I
okay.
would go to things I was interested in, learn more, ask
Right.
questions, collect cards, email people afterwards, say, hey, I
Oh,
really
okay.
loved what you spoke about. It really resonated. And then the other thing I was doing was emailing people online if if I saw a blog post that really
Oh,
looked very interesting, or if I saw
okay.
something. One of the things you have to do when you're looking for a job is get over any shyness and just put
Yeah,
yourself out there. And
that's
so
true.
when
That's
when
true.
when we talk about networking, I think sometimes we think you have to go to things that you're not interested in and just kind of, but actually
That's
it can
true.
be very organic. It can
Yes, it
be
can.
what you're interested in, what you saw, what caught your interest. And so
Right.
I reached out to someone at actually looking back, I think I had reached out to like three different people at GPE just because,
Okay.
education was my interest.
Okay.
Um
Okay.
and I remember one of them who I now work with. I should tell her at some point, but do you remember when you emailed a grad student back? That was me. Um,
Wow.
some of them emailed me back and shared resources and
Okay.
because GBE produces, papers on our work and research. So it was also just a lot of knowledge sharing.
Okay.
But someone had written a blog post and I was like, oh, this is really interesting.
Okay.
I would love to, if you have time for a coffee, I'd love to meet up. And when she saw the email and responded, she did, and we met up and we had coffee. At this point, I did already have a job at ICRW, so I
Right.
wasn't job hunting. So we just had a really nice conversation. I shared what I was doing. We talked.
Okay.
Um, and then she said, there might be a consultancy opening up on the team.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Um, and nothing, it wasn't like quick, it wasn't super quick, but there
Right.
was a consulting a role that had been held by someone and they had, moved on. And
Okay.
so she was like, yeah, would you be interested when she sort of finalized? So it was a few weeks after we had coffee and so on. And then, yeah, and
Okay.
I sent in, some work samples and, so on. And that was how I got the short-term consultancy.
Wow.
So I was a short-term consultant for about just under 2 years.
Okay.
Then became what the bank calls an extended term consultant. So
Okay.
a short-term consultancy in the bank, you can only work 150 days a year. The
Okay. Yeah.
extended term consultancy, it's like a 1 year full-time contract, and you have
Okay.
benefits and the health insurance and all of that.
Right. Right.
And then I think it was August of last year. I became a full-time staff member. Well, I was already full-time, but
But this was now
like
more
a
fully
term
full
contract.
time.
Yes. So it's
Okay.
like a
So the
year.
11 months one, you transition from that to this
Yes.
one,
The
and
short-term consultancy.
so
Yeah.
did the OPT run out, and then you transition to this one?
So this is the benefit. So when you work at the World Bank, when you're at the World Bank, you
You had a
get
different kind of
a different
visa,
visa. Yes.
a
So the
different
OPT
visa.
finished, and that was when I left ICRW and I transitioned to the G4 visa, which is a
Okay,
diplomatic adjacent visa. It comes under the category of diplomatic visas, and
diplomatic.
it's the visa for international staff. So UN, anyone who's working at a UN office, anyone who's working at like the AFTB or so,
Right.
is also
Right.
on a G4 visa.
So my jealousy just went up
Ah, please,
tenfold.
Sunny. But yeah, you have don't you have like full American citizenship? So
It's a green card. It's fine.
close
But
enough.
close
Close.
enough.
At least you don't have to renew visas. I mean,
So
yeah,
how
there.
often do you have to? Because I know there was one time you had to always go to the border. I don't know.
Yes. So when
You
I
said
was an STC with the short-term
okay,
consultancy, there is a restriction where you have to leave the country every 90 days,
every
which is
90
not
days.
great. Yeah, depending on like if you're full-time, there are some conditions around it, but that's essentially what the rule is. But it's
But
not
you were
great
still on
when you're
OPT.
no, I thought by the time I was on a G4 for the
Okay, you're on a
STC.
G4. Okay, okay, okay,
Hmm
okay,
hmm So I had to do that. So that was when I started kind of traveling on a budget. But you could, I was able to, work out the timing so that it wasn't too expensive or worked out with a trip where I was going elsewhere,
okay.
and so on.
And then when you came in, they just what did they usually say at the entrance? Welcome back.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's the G4. I mean, this is DC. The airport sees a lot of
Oh,
G4
okay.
visas. You know
Sorry,
exactly what's going on. I
sorry.
think the
We know
one time
we're all in the West Coast, so we're very bush.
exactly it's
We're very
different.
bush here.
Well, no, no, Bush. It's just different. So I
Yeah.
think one time I landed in Miami or something, coming back from somewhere, and they were trying to funnel me through a line, and I was like, "This visa is not going to work here." And then I had to, sometimes it's things like that.
Wait, hold on. You don't use the regular line? Wait,
No,
really?
I use the
Wait,
diplomatic line.
slow down, slow down. So I haven't traveled internationally in a long. I haven't traveled internationally since I got to the US in 2015. So I haven't been out. But yes, I
Did you go to
haven't.
London?
No, I haven't been anywhere since I came since 2015. So when you land, there's usually a line for American citizens. There's a
Right.
line for, uh,
Green card
others,
holders,
green card holders, and then
then
there is an
others.
other. You have your own line.
Depending on the line, there might be a line for diplomats.
There might be a line for diplo. Wow. Okay. All right.
Smiling.
And then they fast track. But you also did mention one time that your pathway to a green card is a bit different.
It is, and actually, with the World Bank, it's going to be you have to spend 16 years at the World Bank consecutively,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
then a green card becomes an option, and it's upon retirement, I believe. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
not saying, yeah, this is not necessarily
Automatic.
a automatic exactly. It's not automatic. It's not necessarily a pathway to stay. Of course, there are several pathways to citizenship and should one choose to stay in the US. And
Right.
I believe, although you can't quote me, but I believe the G4 is as you know, there are different types of visas. So if you come in, for example, when I was a student on an F1, that's a
F1. Yeah.
non-immigrant visa. So you
Yes.
can't, you know,
You have
become an
immigrant
immigrant on
intent.
that.
You can't
You
have
have
an
to
immigrant intent.
exactly, and that's why you have to go home and renew and show all the things. But a G4, I believe, is recognized as a dual intent visa, so
Dual
you
intent.
can kind of explore some of the different pathways for a green card and citizenship
Speaking of,
without any repercussions.
did you do an interview for your G4?
Hmm.
Ah, yes, I want to hear this one. Did you do an interview?
No,
You did. Wait,
no,
you did
you
not do an interview.
don't. So,
You,
okay, so remember, first of
wow.
all, I started this job in 2020, right? So, or that's when
Yeah.
so COVID. So I wasn't able to travel. So my
Okay.
first G4 was given to me in country. And that
Okay.
is something that took a while and so on because it was processed in country. But yeah, just went and dropped off my papers. And then after I think 10 weeks, I picked up my passport and there was a visa. But
Okay.
it does obviously, prior to this, Nigerians got 2-year visas. That
Okay.
was because of the reciprocity, and now I
Because
believe it's 5 years.
5 years.
So
Yes.
I have had to renew it a couple of times.
Okay.
Um, uh, the process is very straightforward. I tell the World Bank visa office that I need to renew my
Okay.
G4, and
Okay.
generally I try to renew outside the country because it's quicker.
Okay. Okay.
And then they say, where do you want to renew? And I say, I want to renew. I've tried to time it to coincide with trips or with work missions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's why I renewed. I was on mission in Paris. I was like, I'd like to renew in Paris. They send a letter to the Paris embassy. I
Okay.
walk up to the embassy, drop my passport on a Monday, pick it up on
Uh-huh.
Friday,
That's
and
it?
dip.
No
Yeah.
interviews? You don't talk to anyone?
No. I mean, I do. I say I'm here to drop this, and they say, okay, what's this? And they
That's
give them
you
the
know what I
passport and a
mean.
picture and so on. Yeah, no, no interviews.
No, okay, all right.
No
Anyway,
interviews. But again, remember, this is a visa that's tied to my job, that's tied specifically
yes,
to this job. So this visa only applies as long as I work at the World Bank, or should I transition to a UN agency or
okay,
um, another recognized international body like the AFTB,
okay, okay,
and so on. Yeah.
okay. Wow. So, okay. So this has been very interesting. So, based on your journey, what advice would you give individuals in Nigeria and other countries looking to study in the US? I mean, they've heard so much already, but what advice would you have?
I think if you want to study in the US,
Right.
my advice, first of all, pray. Be sure.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
easy.
Right.
Um, really utilize the resources around you. And by that, I mean
Okay.
primarily the internet.
Okay.
I have had way too many people rely on other people for
Okay.
information on
Right.
how processes work, on how to do things. You know, it's, oh, so
Okay.
and so told me. Don't let
Yes,
anybody tell
that's
you.
that's another thing.
Go and look
I
it up
A lot of
yourself.
people that use agents, they have all these educational
Exactly.
agents that want to do stuff for
Exactly.
them and things like that.
Exactly. And I would say don't surrender your autonomy in this process, because don't when you give everything over to an agent, you're a
Yeah.
little bit at their mercy. Now,
Yes.
do some agents have information that could be very helpful, that could be a great of great use to you on your journey? Absolutely. Should you
Yes.
ever just abandon everything? No. I mean, even 16, 17-year-old me, well, I was also the first. So my blessed parents just kind of, they're like, okay, I would say, I need to do this. Like, okay,
Okay.
sure. They
Oh.
didn't know, we weren't America. We weren't really familiar with it, but I would really encourage people to just go out and do your research.
Okay.
What is, and not, oh, I watched someone on a YouTube video, but actually read the USCIS website, right?
Right.
Read your school webs, whatever schools you're looking at.
Right.
Um, the other thing I would also really encourage people to do is be clear about your goals.
Okay. Okay.
I'm someone who has been blessed to be in a position where I can always pursue academic excellence, right?
Right.
Be clear, focus on that, do your best, and then
Right.
look for what aligns with that. I know there's some people who do get into schools and are thinking, oh, this is just a springboard. Once I get in, I can do X,
Yeah.
Y, Z.
Yep.
Many
Yep.
times it doesn't work like that. You've
Yes.
committed to this program. You have to finish it. You have to do it.
Right.
You can't, abscond halfway through. You can't switch. You can't. So I would really recommend that, know what you want to do and
Okay.
commit to doing it.
Okay.
But yeah, just really use all the resources around you. And finally, although this is something that I say, especially when you're confused about, like, what does the school, I mean, lots of schools now have more international students. They have better information and better services, but
Right.
call them. If the
Oh.
website is confusing, there is a
Yeah.
person. Call them.
All them.
You can email them as well, but
Yeah.
check the time difference and call them. Call and ask. Your website says, I need, I applying for international aid at the time. There was the ISFAA, the International Student Financial Aid Application.
Okay.
Okay, your website says I need the ISFAA, but there's also this form. Which one? Like, just,
Which one?
it's
Oh, okay.
people. Yeah. So I
Clarify then.
really,
Clarify.
exactly, don't kind of be wandering around. But a lot of the time, of course, that doesn't apply for like bigger embassy things where you will be called
Mm.
number 500 and that's something for the day. But
Right.
especially when it comes to some of the academic stuff, you can call institutions. They have dedicated staff who are very knowledgeable, and will be
Okay.
able to guide you. So,
Okay. Well,
and
thank you
pray.
very much. Oh, and pray. Very important.
Pray.
I had one more question, but it seems that you had answered it in this previous question. So I wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity to interview you today. You're a very busy person. But yeah, it was nice having you on here. I hope maybe we'll have another episode for the coupon hacking. You can tell us about how you do that and how you hack the airlines and how you pay $100 for a first class ticket. That's not true, by the way. Anyone listening, you cannot pay $100 for a first class ticket.
42. I paid 42.
You paid
So,
$42 for a first
yeah.
class ticket, Anyways, that's the episode we had today. Thank you very much. I'll probably bring her on, so maybe living in the US episode, so she can give
Yeah.
us some hacking. Thank you, Foluyinka.
Thank you so much for having me, Said. Your podcast is a great resource to people who are looking to move to explore other options and opportunities in the
Yes.
US. So thank you. I'm honored that you thought to invite me on to share a little bit of my
If I
story,
didn't
and I hope that it
invite
will
you,
be helpful.
who would I have invited?
So many
It,
people. I hope the first episode of this podcast was yourself sharing your story. Or do
yes.
I need to come and interview you?
I have so the way I've been doing it is I have different episodes for different interview series, and then my story is going to be like the fourth episode. So this is going to
Okay.
be, three-part, and then yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I can't wait till I get to hear your episodes.
Yeah.
Yes. But thank you. This is